Hello everybody watching, this is Right Angle Productions, and thank you for 2 to the power of 8, or 256, subscribers. I think now we're actually at like 259 last I checked, and also that we hit 256 over a month ago, I think. I have a screenshot of it somewhere, but that's not important right now. 256 is a cool number. A single byte of storage is made up of 8 bits, and 8 bits can represent a number between 0 and 255. That's a number for each of you. It's also worth mentioning that this milestone happened after the IBM PC video, and so I'd like to say thank you to everyone who took a chance on that video and decided to stick around. And of course, thank you to anybody who's been subscribed for longer. I'm so glad that you all have decided to stick around. And also, thank you to anybody who's not part of either of those two categories and isn't even a subscriber and is just watching this video. I'm glad to have you here. I'm working on multiple other tech tips with Angle videos right now, including another one about my IBM PC, but until then, I thought I'd make a silly little video where I show some more vintage technology. And to be even more retro, I'll be recording most of this video with my camcorder from 1998. This definitely isn't just because when I started recording this video I didn't have the charger for my regular camcorder on me, but that's besides the point. Welcome to the second episode of Tech Tips with Angle. This time, I'll be showing you my dot matrix printer and some of the cool things you can print with it. If you're interested in tech videos that don't use nor suck up to generative AI, and instead show you the kinds of things that you can make with technology as your tools, sometimes tech that's been lost to time, I hope you enjoy this video and whatever other Tech Tips with Angle videos that I make. But first, let me give you a brief explanation of what a dot matrix printer is. Today, the most common types of document printers are inkjet and laser printers. If you have a printer in your home, it's probably an inkjet printer. If you have a printer in your school or business, it's probably a laser printer. Before these two, the most common type of document printer was dot matrix. Dot matrix printers work by punching a matrix of dots onto a piece of paper in order to create text or an image, hence the name. Dot matrix printers usually use this kind of continuous paper, otherwise known as fanfold paper. I refer to it by both names and sometimes just dot matrix paper or dot matrix printer paper. Dot matrix printers lost their popularity to inkjet and laser throughout the 1990s. Today, they're usually just associated with computers from before then. Anyway, that's enough background. Let's go have a look at my dot matrix printer.
Okay, this is my dot matrix printer. It's a Panasonic KXP1131. This one's actually a bit of a later model dot matrix printer. This one's from 1998, and one feature it has that most don't is you can actually switch between using fanfold paper, so this continuous paper that has the tractor holes at the side, kind of like a film reel that the printer uses to pull the page through as it's printing, or you can flip this switch and instead it'll use regular 8.5 by 11 inch paper that modern printers use. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing on, which you get to hear the sound of it turning on, which I think is really cool. And that's just a teaser of the fun sounds that this thing makes. But I set it to non-continuous paper mode, and when you do that, you stick in the sheet of paper, and when it goes down far enough, it notices it and pulls it through. And now to demonstrate the fanfold paper, I'm just going to use the knob to push it back out. What you do is lift up this thing, and I'm actually going to bring the camera a bit closer and lift this thing up so that you can really see. And now we'll put the fanfold paper in. So what you do is lift up these two clamps, and you can see the actual belt with these spikes, and that is what you put the holes into. Just get it in like that. There we go. Sometimes this one falls out of place, which there we go, push it out of place. You can lock them in. For some reason, only this one I can get the lock. This one, I guess the lock just doesn't stay anymore. But I just line it up and then I kind of push it in until the spikes are there. Put the clamp down, and then let's get it tight like that. And now I'm going to flip the switch back to continuous paper mode. And then we press this button right here, Load Park. So when I press the Load Park button, it pulls it through right up to the print head. So that way, we're ready to print.
But what to print? Well, you print some pictures. How's about I go outside and take some? Candid shot. Alright, I got a picture. I went outside and took this picture of my car because why wouldn't I want to see what my car looks like through a dot matrix printer? And another thing I want to show you all is what ASCII art looks like through a dot matrix printer, because there's just something about it that makes ASCII art go 10 times harder, so we'll have to look for some ASCII art to print too. And finally, the Right Angle Productions logo. On top of the cloud picture too. I feel like the style of my logo fits the sort of style of a dot matrix printer, but that might just be my brain making connections because they're things that I make and like respectively. But anyway, let's put those things in a document and get to printing. Here we are on my server computer. This is the computer that my dot matrix printer is connected to for the sake of convenience, or rather location. The printer sits right next to where I have my server. My server computer is relatively modern, which is to say it doesn't have a parallel port. Back in the day, you'd have a DB25 connector, which is this long 25-pin connector, on the back of your computer known as the parallel port. You'd use this to connect to your printer. You plug in the DB25 end into your computer, and on the other end, you have an IEEE 1284, otherwise known as a Centronics connector, which you then plug into the printer. So while my server computer, like most modern computers, doesn't have a parallel port, all you need is a parallel USB adapter like this, and you can use an old printer like this with a modern computer. Anyway, I have a LibreOffice Writer document open, so let's put this stuff in it to print. So here's my car. Now, I haven't ever made ASCII art, and I can't think of anything good really to use as an example here. So I just looked up text to ASCII art generator. There's a number of websites where you can just type something, that's what the default text here is actually, and pick a style, and you get it as ASCII art. So we're gonna say something very original, ASCII art exclamation point. Cool. And let's find a different style. If I remember correctly, Blur Vision looks really cool. Yeah, this looks really cool. And this is also going to look really cool through a dot matrix printer. I'll go ahead and do this, but I'm going to put art on a different line. You'll see why. Copy. And just make a little text box. And paste. And that looks weird, so put in Courier New, which is a monospace font, and turn down the size till it looks like something. And that is something. There we go. And I do know one other place I can find some cool ASCII art. NeoFetch in my terminal. Most Linux users know about this, but there's a little terminal command you can get called NeoFetch. There's also ScreenFetch or FastFetch. There's plenty of different versions of this whatever fetch that displays ASCII art of your Linux distribution's logo, as well as your system specs. And so I have Linux Mint on my laptop. Yes, I did go out of my way to install GNOME on it, and yes, I pronounce it as GNOME. I'm going to make everyone mad today. But I just copied the ASCII art of the Linux Mint logo that it outputted, and we're going to print that as well. So, another text box. And I got to do some formatting here too. There we go. Perfect. So we have ASCII art and the Linux Mint logo. Alright everyone, give a big thank you to my camcorder for suddenly deciding to stop outputting. This is what you have to deal with when you decide to take the risk of a tapeless recording. But anyway, what I did was put in the right angle logo over the clouds picture and printed. And so I'm going to print again. So let's do that. Here's everything on the document. Going to go in File, Print, and it's already selected the printer I want, the Epson LQ Series 2. Now that might be a bit confusing because I said this printer is a Panasonic KXP1131, not an Epson LQ Series 2. Well, in getting a printer this old working with modern Windows, especially over a parallel port, it's not as simple as just installing a driver. I have set this printer up before with a computer of mine from 1999, and that was just installing a driver. But in modern Windows, running and installing the driver doesn't work. Instead, what I had to do was open Device Manager and have it look for drivers through Windows Update, and then it gave me a list of printers,
and the Panasonic KX-P1031 was not on it, but I found the owner's manual for this Panasonic printer, which said that if you don't have the option for this specific printer model, to instead try all of these. And so in the list that Windows gave me, I was able to select the Epson LQ Series 2, and that ended up working. So if I print to this Epson LQ Series 2, that is actually my Panasonic, it works. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. Okay, take two for printing. I'm now going to click print. And there we go. How cool is that? A dot matrix printer in action. And now for the final bit, ripping the paper out. Alright, and now for fun and the sake of comparison, I'm going to print the same document, but with an inkjet printer. This thing can print color, as you could probably guess, but I'm going to print it in black and white just for what I feel is better comparison. And here we go. Quite a lot faster, as you can see. So here are the results. Twice, because the first time I tried to print and get it on video, it didn't. So I printed it again. But regardless, I don't remember which one was the first and which one was the second, but that doesn't matter because they're basically the same thing. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, miny, meeny, 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 wee, 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 wee. Okay, this one. I could just do the regular eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but that always ends up landing on the second one. So if I get a bit silly and my finger lands on something, that's probably a bit more random. Anyway, here we are. So I'm going to make a scan of this, which you'll be seeing in the actual video, because I don't think you're going to see the detail too well through my camcorder that is the same age as what printed this. But look at that. So in the picture of my car, the blurry edges of the ASCII art and the clouds picture, you can really see, well, the dot matrix. Grays through dot matrix printer look really cool because you can see it in the different grays that it prints. The best way I can describe it is kind of like
some of the brushes and colors in Flipnote, which is a little animation thing, I think for the DS. I don't know much about Flipnote itself, just the animations that have been made with it, but I think it's a really cool effect, and it's cool to see it on paper. I came up with that one just now. That just hit me, and because of that, I probably didn't deliver it too well. That was supposed to be funny. Anyway, my point is, it just has a really cool look, and I think it's really cool to see by car. That's by car. Dot matrix. Anyway, ASCII art. I don't really know how to put in the words, but just it looks really cool when printed by a dot matrix printer. It just feels right. Looks nice. Linux Mint logo and ASCII art. It's cool, right? And finally, my logo. For starters, the cloud picture that I took with my phone like 7 years ago or something, that just looks nice, and so I use it as backgrounds and stuff. And since it's basically just a bunch of grays, you can see all of the little dots. It's so cool. And then just above it, my logo, which, like I said, I just think kind of fits the style. Yeah. And also the inkjet printers print of that same document, just that way you have a point of comparison. You can see that my car, well, it's definitely a lot higher quality, which, I mean, of course is a good thing, but certainly not a bad thing here. I wouldn't even argue this is low quality, it's just a different kind of quality. But it's a much sharper picture. The grays are actually gray rather than just a bunch of dots in different densities to look like different grays, which I think might actually be what this is anyway. This just does it on a much smaller scale. I don't know too much about inkjet printing technology, but at the very least, what I am describing is, of course, what the dot matrix printer does. You can literally see the dots in their different densities, and as I've been saying, it's part of why I think it's cool. I'm recording this at 1 a.m. I'm not very good at articulating. And then the ASCII art, which still looks really cool. You can actually see all like sort of dot bits in the blur ASCII art thing too, but I think that's just because the digital characters themselves are made up of dots. They're not like actual grays, so that's why the printer prints it like this. And of course, this still looks nice. ASCII art just, I think, looks cool regardless, but there's definitely something special about it through a dot matrix printer, and this is what I mean. And finally, of course, my logo and the clouds picture. Clouds picture is definitely more like how I recognize it, because the inkjet printer does a better recreation, just recreates it more accurately. My logo doesn't look that different, honestly, because, I mean, look at it. That's not difficult for a dot matrix printer to create. But yeah, you can of course see the difference. And I feel like I'm not presenting this as I should. My point is more of what something printed from a dot matrix printer looks like, and how it's different from something printed from a modern printer. I don't think this is bad. If I did think this was bad, I probably wouldn't be making a video about it, nor even talking about it in the way I am right now. I love this, and I love it because it's different, and I think that's really cool. Of course, there are advantages to the modern printing technologies we have. The dot matrix printer and the kind of things it prints are just cool in its own right, and that's what I wanted to show to you. But that's about all I have to say. Perhaps one day I'll make a video that goes more in depth about dot matrix printers as well as inkjet and laser printers. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this little Tech Tips with Inkle video. Not many tech tips were given necessarily. This is just me showing something about technology that I think is cool. So now I'd like to say thank you for watching Right Angle Productions, and thank you for 2 to the power of 8 subscribers. Bye.